Hey there, today we're going to take a look at various cat breeds. Before I start, however, I highly recommend that you have already watched my first video about how to draw cats. The link is up in one of these corners, you know, this weird information card thingy of YouTube, but also down below in the description. The reason is because in this video I'm not going to do live drawings, but I already have the drawings prepared beforehand. If I would draw every single cat from scratch, the video would become way too long and also way too repetitive and boring. And so I have prepared 5 different cat breeds, and I know there are many more different ones. The point is also that you develop some sort of eye for these subtle differences between the cat breeds, and you can put them down on paper or your canvas. Now the first one is already very interesting. It is the Exotic Shorthair cat. The first thing that you're probably going to notice is, well, the mouth. It looks kind of like melting down and is very long. You can see these shapes that I normally draw as an indication for where the cheeks are going to be are angled down quite significantly, and the cheeks will even extend over that. The eyes are big and round and also quite far from each other. The ears are very short and round, like so, and the face is very round too. Now a thing you cannot see because this cat is looking straight forward is that the snout is very flat, almost like squished in a way. Now as for the basic bone structure, except for one example that I've chosen, the differences are so insignificantly small that we don't really have to care too much about it. If the legs are a bit shorter or longer or the back, it doesn't really matter because we don't have to be perfect. And for the most part the face is going to be important, you know? So we just take the body as like normal adult cat size, and that's it. What we do have to consider about the body is what is on the bones. For an Exotic Shorthair, the body build is more on the chunkier, more on the broader side, and when you draw these individual limbs, you have to keep that in mind. The paws are also quite big and round, and the tail is also quite thick with a blunt tip. If we take a look at the fur, it is quite dense and the hair is short, as the name suggests. And also the hair are normally standing up and are not flat. Another thing that I drew here is some sort of fold around the nose bridge, because the snout is so squished in that it kinda has that in a way. And the nose itself also looks a little bit different. It is not quite the same as a normal house cat, but you can kinda imagine that it has been lifted up by the nostrils. It is hard to explain. It's kinda like that though. It kinda looks like it, to be quite honest. Well, other than that, that's basically it. And here's the final drawing, and as always, I just show it off, but I don't really explain much else about it, because it is up to you in what kind of style you want to draw in. But instead I can give you some extra trivia. For example, Garfield. Well, everybody knows Garfield, right? It is said that he is also an Exotic Shorthair. It is not verified, it could be also another breed, but you can kinda see the similarities, especially with the mouth. Yeah. Now the second one is a Scottish Fold, whose name obviously comes from its ears, which are folded down like so. They are also a little bit on the shorter side. The eyes are quite big and round, and so is the face itself. And this is kind of a trend about the Scottish Fold. It's very round looking. I drew the pose kind of like ready to jump forward, like it's right now playing around. As for the bone structure and stuff, again, there's not really much else to be said. So let's jump right to the second stage, where you can see that the body is also, again, as I said, a bit rounder, a bit thicker built. The tail again has a blunt tip and is quite thick, and the fur is also again quite short, and the hair is very dense and stands up. The paws are quite big and round, and as I said, like, it's a very round looking cat. Another thing that I can also say is that the snout is more on the shorter side, while the face itself is more broad. And to give you some trivia again, actually they are not born with their ears folded down, but it takes them about 2 to 4 weeks until they do that. They are also known to pose in all sorts of weird positions, like lying on the floor with their limbs stretched out, or lying on their back, or standing up like a meerkat. Very silly and very cute. Oh, Hoko, what's going on? Unfortunately, they are also known to have some very bad health problems, so that's not so great. Speaking of, the next cat is also more on the controversial side, but for different reasons. It is the Munchkin cat, whose only outstanding trait are the short legs, and that's it. They are significantly shorter, like only about half of the skull length, and they are also normally folded together, like so. Other than that, they come in all sorts of variations with different fur patterns and colors and head shapes and whatnot. You could have a naked Munchkin cat, and you could have one that almost looks like a Persian cat. So in this example, I just drew it more of like a normal house cat, just with stubby legs, and that's it. Now, the reason why I said it is controversial is because a lot of cat fancier associations do not recognize this cat breed. The concern is that their extreme body structure could come with some sorts of health problems, like especially for the spine. Now, actually, Munchkin cats are quite healthy. Some of them have a few problems, but it's not too extreme. But I do understand the concerns, because it should not get too far, as it already has gotten with dogs, for example. Now, for the last drawing, I have two cats, and there's a special reason behind it. On the left side, we have a Maine Coon cat, and on the right side, we have a British Shorthair cat, who is actually my friend's cat, called Archie. Now, originally, he has been living together with a Maine Coon cat, but that one was a bit too wild for him. He's kind of a softie, and so now he is living together with my friends. Now, to get back to describing them, Maine Coon cats are known to be very big. They have long backs, their paws are very big, and they also have longer snouts, although not like super long. And as for the British Shorthair cat, they also have big paws, although not as big as a Maine Coon cat, obviously, and their face is normally more on the rounder side. Here at the second stage, and you can see that Maine Coon cat has a very muscular build. It's very broad, and they're also known for having long and silky hair. Their snout is quite big, kind of like almost lion-like appearance, and they also have big eyes, and the ears are very pointy and large. As for the British Shorthair cat, you can see that the ears are a bit on the smaller side and a bit rounder. They have a bit of a chunkier build, and their snouts are also normally a bit shorter. And that is basically it. Well, in this final drawing, you can see I went way overboard with the Maine Coon cat's fur. It took way too long, and I really regret it. But, well, and in the end, it doesn't even look that great. So, well, but I am happy with how Archie has turned out, so that's nice. There are still two things I have to point out. The first one is Archie's eye color is blue, and also his fur is quite bright. That is because he is an albino cat, so it is not normal for a British Shorthair cat to have these traits. And the other thing is, you can clearly see the difference of their fur when looking at their tails. While this one is very dense and round looking, the one of the Maine Coon cat is more separated into individual strands, because its fur is not as dense. And for the ending, I give you some quick trivia. For example, for the Maine Coon cat, the longest cat in the world is actually a Maine Coon cat, so that's pretty neat. As for British Shorthair cats, they're actually among the oldest breeds. It goes back to the 1st century, where it is said that they have been imported to Britain by Roman invaders. And then during World War I and II, they nearly went extinct because barely anybody has been breeding them. And the Cheshire cat in Alice in Wonderland, you know, the one with the big grin, is said to be a British Shorthair. So you can clearly see the obvious differences between those breeds, but it doesn't get too extreme. They are still constructed more or less in the same way. Well, if you want to learn more, like for example how to draw kittens, or cats in typical poses, or how to express emotions with their face and the body language, then you can check out my cat tutorial playlist, which the link is also going to be in the corner or down below in the description. And if you really care about the show that I'm producing, and you can afford it of course, then you can also check out my Patreon page and support me there, for which I would be very, very thankful. And of course you would also get all sorts of rewards. Alright then, have fun drawing.